Welcome. I'm Debbie Rosas, and you're listening to Get In. Now, this is a podcast that invites you to get closer. Closer to what? To yourself. Closer to your body, to your mind, your thoughts, not too close. To your emotions. Oh my God, how do we harness them? And to your spirit, that authentic truth that lies within you, that wants to get out, wants to be expressed. Closer to that part of you that I know knows how to lead. But how in today's world, right? How to lead? How do we lead from the heart and also protect our heart at the same time? Who knew we had to protect our heart? I just learned that lesson, and by God, it was painful. I'm the founder and creator of Nia Technique, a body and life movement art. It's been around since 1983. At the source of my work, emotion, body, mind, spirit, the whole package, the whole being. Nothing is separate. And yet that sacred act of showing up for yourself and being of service can be messy business, particularly when you have your own power, you have your own story, you have your own purpose, you have what's meaningful and important. How do you get that whole mix into a map that you can follow? My experience has been that showing up, particularly in today's world, it isn't always graceful. I spent 40 years, and trust me, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've always gotten back up. I've always wanted to learn, to listen, to do better, I guess is what I would say. Um, my work is raw, and it is emotional, it's personal. I never set out to be in a business. I'm an artist, but somehow find myself in this role of being leader in business. And whew, boy, what a journey it's been. Now, there are moments in leadership and also in life, maybe you can relate to it, when you sense that the ground underneath your feet that was solid, it shifts. And you're looking for how can I hold on? Where can I go? Where do I go to feel safe? And where do you go when what's inside of you, your work, your soul is being questioned or criticized? When the noise outside gets so loud that in a sense you can't hear what's inside of you. And the stories that other people telling you that about you, they sting, and you begin to question what you're doing, how you're living. I recently lived that, and boy, it shook me. But I learned a lot. I got quiet. I let myself feel everything. I didn't resist it. I took accountability for my part in whatever was happening. And in the quiet, in that going in that quiet, something happened that I know this to be true. I teach it all the time. To go inside, to quiet the chaos outside, to go inside and to reconnect to that current deep within. And start with breath. Just take your shoes off, put your feet on the ground, or lay down, belly down, and just breathe. Because let's face it, the work that we do, our life in a body, it's personal, it's subjective. You can't separate service and self because our body's in service to us. We are in service with our body to not just thrive, but to do something outside of ourselves. This is what I believe, something of service. We can learn to stay present to what's happening, to feel, to sense. But this takes, and I love what we're going to talk about, radical responsibility to move through it, which is why I hold my guest, Cy Wakeman, in such high regard. She is a visionary, a truth teller. Ooh, sometimes it stings, but I love that kind of truth telling sting. She's a guide. She spent over 25 plus years transforming workplaces from Google to NASA to Pfizer, helping people cut through that noise I was talking about and cut through ego the unhealthy part of ego, to step into something she calls is a real reality. I don't know what that is, but we're going to find out. She is the best of the best drama researchers. I call myself a drama mover. She's a drama researcher. New York Times bestselling author. I love her books. They're so easy to read and chock full of leadership medicine. She's a global voice. Most of all, she's a woman who gets it. Life's messy, live happy, no ego, reality based leadership. All books that offer what? Something we all want, at least I do, liberation. Liberation. The kind of freedom that comes when we just stop spinning stories in our mind, we stop blaming others, and we start leading ourselves. We start leading ourselves from our heart. In the theater of work, life, everyday living, Cy doesn't fight drama. She dissolves it. She's not a witch. She's just really, really smart. She brings in curiosity and clarity and compassion. She teaches us that ego is not evil. It's maybe just a little bit outdated in the way we've been taught to relate to ego. Because let's face it, without our ego, we wouldn't have survived. Our ego can help us lead, it helps us define who we are. But if we're not careful, it can turn the workplace, our life, no, I have experienced this, into a battleground of entitlement rather than a space of evolution. Cy says, stop believing everything you think. Boy, that's one that I'll say again. Stop believing everything you think. She reminds us that pain is inevitable, but suffering, well, maybe that's often a story that we spin, we write ourselves that makes the pain last for a long time. Today's emotionally charged world, whether it is watching the news on social media, watching government leaders, anger and fear are flooding our nervous systems and our bodies through screens, through workplace, through family, through friends. Her message is urgent, and that's why I want to talk to her today. Have you ever been in a space where your emotions have hijacked your mission? I did just the other day with my daughter, where blame replaces bravery and where stories people tell become louder than truth. I haven't, I don't think I'm alone. Cy gives us tools not to bypass, but to metabolize, to feel fully, and to use what we feel, which is how we personalize things, right? I talk about it all the time. We've got mind and body. What personalizes it? That coupling effect, that emotion that's yours. How do we use it wisely and lead the way? How do we stay safe in our own body and manage our nervous systems? It can get quite nervous. How do we lead with clarity, impact, and compassion in a world that feels like it is burning at the edges? These are all questions that I want to ask. Welcome, Cy. I am so excited to have you.
Thank you. Absolutely thrilled to be here. And I've admired your work for many, many years. So we go way back to good old Rancho La Puerta. So I'm so thrilled to be here with you.
Absolutely. Um, the first thing that I would love to hear, because I really don't know the details of your story, meaning what was the pull that you got or the knock, the message that said to you, hey, Cy Wakeman, you're going to do this?
I wish I could tell you there is some burning bush that I saw because that would make everyone who's out there looking for their purpose to keep seeking for some burning bush. But I'm not sure it happens like that. I think it's more of a cumulative effect. Uh, um, in technology, we do what's called A/B testing. We put two ideas out there, and when one hits, we turn the volume up on that and drop the volume on another, and then we put two more ideas out, and so I think for me, it's been more, um, gathering and collecting and co-facilitating with the universe and just to see what helped others and what didn't help others and so I know when I was very little, I was born into a family that it felt like to me they just couldn't take a lot more stress, that they were a very stressed family, and so I was 6 of 7 kids. I remember being born into this family thinking, "I'm just not gonna add to this, and I'm gonna see if I can't, like, take away from this." And I just had this sense from an early age that there's an easier way. It doesn't have to be this hard. Suffering's really optional, even though pain's inevitable. And from that, I ended up going on and training as a social worker as my way to really help folks. And I started out doing therapy and counseling in um, many populations of clients and patients, but predominantly those that were um, living life with some addictive behaviors that they hoped that they could change. And it was through that experience that I learned a lot about concepts your listeners will know about, codependency and while the recovery world was very much stop using, I was more attracted to harm reduction and things aren't black and white. And we often, in our suffering, look for black and white concrete answers. And I instead felt most comfortable helping people in the messy middle, just holding space with people while they experimented and tried things out for themselves. And it was from that that I went into leadership in healthcare. And as they were teaching very traditional leadership concepts, I would look at those and just think, none of that's going to work. None of that is going to work. It's just it's set up for failure. And I prefer evidence based and research. And so I really started to challenge conventional wisdoms in um, leadership and started to lead my team more with a path of a wisdom path, ancient spirituality, ancient traditions, things that we knew have been true for a long, long time, and some evidence-based practice, and we got results, and things just kind of accidentally went from there. So I never set out to become an expert, write a book, do any of this. I just said yes in small enough increments that this whole thing was kind of built in partnership with me. So I feel at times that in spite of myself, I've been able to help a lot of people.
I love the idea of partnership. You mentioned, the universe, and I really get that your ability to listen to layers of relationship outside of this third dimensional reality, bring in that, as you said, that ancient sacred wisdom that is there for us to tap into if we listen and if we believe that it is there, and if we believe that we are in relationship with something other than just this physical reality. I
And today
love
I would even
how
challenge the belief because I think this is happening with or without us. And so I think a lot of times humans put so much pressure on themselves. It's like, I need to know and I need to believe. And if I don't believe, I'll somehow like screw it up. And I'm like, sweetie, you don't even need to believe because this is happening,
yeah,
whether you buy into it or not. And I only say that not to correct you, or challenge you, but to take some of the pressure off what I hear so many people suffering today come to me with. They're like, how do I master this? And everybody wants to figure out how to master things. And I like to encourage people to not just focus on mastery, but focus on their ability to sit in mystery. Because what is struggling us is our balance is off a bit, where people, especially Western culture, is all about mastering something. And a lot of people who end up really getting in tune with something, it's from being able to sit in the mystery of it. For instance, I'm taking for the first time in my life some voice coaching, and I wanted to sing and study voice. And they're like, why don't we, play with your discomfort on, humming? And it's finding the balance. And I only say that because I think so many people are trying to add one more thing to their to-do list to get through these times, and I'm more about, like, take some things off of that little list.
absolute. So, everybody, it's about mastering the mystery. I
Yeah,
like
or
that.
sitting in the mystery, yeah. The
Sitting in it.
balancing mastery as much as I wanna master, I also know, yeah, I need to sit in the mystery and master that for a while.
Yeah, having studied martial arts, my idea of mastering anything is really just showing up for it.
I love that.
Just meeting it,
Just meeting
because,
it.
in Aikido, I've got to meet it, to understand it, to feel it, to move it, right? To be with it,
That's a
not to
beautiful
dominate,
analogy.
but to cooperate with, in a
And use
sense.
that energy that I met with in creative ways, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I love how, you are bringing healthcare and leadership together. I think we can all agree that, anybody that has worked in the healthcare profession, learning how to sustain their health and well being is a challenge. The workplace environment, the demands, it's huge. And yet, when I look at that, I don't think that's any different than life. We've got time constraints, so we've got environments. Sometimes we like being in it, sometimes we don't like being in it. We've got things we have to do. So what what are some leadership skills that you would say these are must-haves? It doesn't matter whether you're in healthcare or just living life.
So, one of the things I teach leaders that's very different is a lot of leaders think they need to manage the work of others. And I believe that processes and systems and AI and standardization should really manage the work of others. That's really how we should be partnering with these noble intelligences. And what leaders do, rather than managing the work of others, we don't manage people, we manage the energy of people. And that leaders are energy managers, and they need to manage energy in a couple of ways, away from why we can't and why we shouldn't have to what if we could? How
Yeah.
could we? So that hope and dreaming and scheming. They also need to manage energy away from what the human condition leads us to do first. So when something comes our way that's disruptive, the worst thing we can do is name it, especially name it too soon. Because when we name it too soon, we name it from a place of not knowing, but the ego wants to name it to get certainty. And we usually name it negatively, which means then we co create from a victim standpoint. So when something happens, I help leaders say, don't name it. It's just an unpreferred reality. That's all I'll give you.
Oh, I love that. Unpreferred reality. That's
Unpreferred
good.
reality. Because we name this as disastrous and the end of the world. And, this ruins everything. And this means that no one cares or that we never can be unified. Or like the minute we name something so negatively, we're automatically the villain, somebody or victim, somebody else is the villain, and it's hopeless. And so when an unpreferred reality comes along, leaders also have to manage energy because people do two things. They either argue with that reality, and they waste so much energy. So in healthcare, especially, I teach people to manage energy, theirs and others. They waste so much energy arguing with reality. And as Byron Katie would say, that's an argument you lose, but only 100% of the time. Colossal waste of energy. And what people do a lot is they just wish for an ideal future. Well, I hope this gets better. I hope. And that's also a waste of energy. But there is a space between an unpreferred reality and a different future. I call it the space of impact. And it's in that space that my whole job as a leader is 100 times a day calling people into the space of impact and saying our next choices, our next behaviors, our work together is the only thing that can connect an unpreferred reality to a different future. And that's why I think a lot of people are wasting energy, missing the mark. And so leaders manage energy. Leaders are translators. When people come in and say, oh my gosh, we got 3 patients dumped on us, it is imperative for a leader to return to neutral energy. Let me translate. We have 3 new intakes because the leader's whole job is energy management and holding the center. Our job is to love people up and to call people up. I see you and appreciate you, and I validate your experience. But calling you up means I won't validate the sense you're making of the experience because that's your ego story. I will imagine with you multiple possible possibilities. And those are really new competencies for a leader that most people aren't talking about. It's the stuff we've discovered in our research that's been really groundbreaking for people to think about leadership differently.
You know what? I feel like you're talking about something like a business mystic. It's a very different way
A
of,
different way of thinking.
yeah, very different way of thinking, which I love, particularly in that I'm so drawn again to Aikido and to working with energy, harmonizing, harmonizing conflict, right? Working with the energy. But I love the position that you describe of the leader as being the translator
Yeah.
and the center of the storm, the calm,
Yes.
and being able to feed back what they see or hear, but not being taken into someone else's emotional reality.
And that's such a key because I often say the golden rule of leadership is you never meet energy with like energy. If somebody's coming in hot, you come in loving, calm, and neutral. Before you do anything to the person you want to lead, you've got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. And that means I have to, every moment something comes at me, I have to open my mind up and get curious and open my heart up and get compassionate. Doesn't mean I'm passive or enabling or codependent. It means I do my part in holding space for that person to go in lots of different directions, but teach them what I call the compassionate returning. You can go over there and go to extremes and say the world's coming to an end. I'll be right here. And when you
It's
come
like a
back, you're going
two-year-old.
to beat yourself up. You're going to go, oh, I was so horrible. And I can't believe I had that human experience. And what I need to teach you as a leader is compassionate returning. When I learned meditation, I would lose the mantra and I would just be like, oh, I'd get so mad. And my teacher would laugh so hard. And he said, I go, I just keep losing the mantra. I need to learn to meditate. And he's like, sweetheart, you need to learn compassionate returning. You will always lose the mantra. And that's the point. The point is learning how to come back compassionately towards yourself and others. And so I just think these are concepts that we need to help others with. I'll hold the center and you're going to have a human experience and I'll be here and teach you compassionate returning.
I love that. It has such a quality of the feminine of maintaining fluidity to be
Yeah.
able to return back, um, and accepting of all that what is without the judgment and the blame, which you talk about as toxic for
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
I'm learning,
Um,
to salsa and dance, and I had one teacher who had no compassionate returning. If I didn't hold the proper pressure and if I didn't, do as instructed, it was like he would stop and then he would be like, "We will begin again." And it didn't work for me. I had a second teacher who had such compassionate returning, he would make up for every mistake that I made. But by his making up for it, and I would find my balance again, I understood what my mistakes were, and he never said a word. And that's for me a leader that I can follow more easily.
it reminds me of when I was in an Aikido class, and I did something, and all of a sudden I heard, Bender, my maiden name, get off the mat. And I was like, I had no idea what I did. And Wendy Palmer was my Aikido sensei. She came over to me and she said, do you know why I told you to get off the mat? And I said, no. And she said, because you took it personally. You did something and you did it wrong and you were invested and you were putting all this energy into what you did wrong. And that meant you took your eyes off of where you were, and that's how you get hurt. And I
I
went,
was gonna say you were
whoa,
in danger.
yeah, I was in danger. And that has been such a lesson to not get so in that you're not able to be aware at the same time. And I think that's sometimes where the emotions um, can be confusing. It's my emotion. It's what I feel. I want you to hear it, whatever. And it creates a separation and a lack of fluidity in a sense.
It really does, and I think so many people are a bit confused because we haven't taught them about this human experience, about, what emotion is, and I think all emotion is real and true and vital, and there's, fake news and fake emotion caused by that fake news, and then there's real emotion, and usually, for me, if, I need to sit with my emotions, one, till they tell me their name, before I try and seek help from other people. We bring so many unprocessed emotions and hold people hostage. Like, I need you to listen and understand. I'm like, nope, I need you to come sit, stay, and metabolize your emotions and then share with us those emotions. And what people are surprised to find out is most of what they're upset about never even happened.
Right.
There's so many emotions people want me to hear as a counselor that aren't even based on anything but like fake news. Or people will say, I'm going to bring my whole self to work. And I would ask them, please do not do that. Bring your most evolved self to work because wisdom is an internal job. And you've got to be able to come and sit and stay and do less external processing where other people meet your needs. There's internal processing that needs to happen. And it's like, don't bring your whole self, bring your most evolved self. And what I know about the interplay for me is evolution is what I turn experience into some wisdom. And my feelings are good information about that. But my wisdom, the amount of wisdom I can generate, determines how much love I can walk through the messy world with. If I'm out in the world and I can't be loving, I don't need to stay out in the world and try and master that. I need to go inside and develop the wisdom that would give me the freedom to walk through the world more lovingly. And that's my new barometer in my life. Is this something, if I look at my calendar, that I can do without violence to myself or others? Is this something I can do lovingly? And when I can't, it's like, what are my habits and dedications that I need to go into? Um, and a lot of it is feelings, but feelings are really tricky because people believe they confuse feelings and venting. And feelings are if somebody comes to me and says, I'm really frustrated. And my job is to validate that experience. Gosh, what happened? Well, my colleague didn't give me the information I needed for my report tomorrow. And now I might have to miss my son's T ball game. And this is the second time that's happened. As a therapist, we're done sharing feelings. It takes one sentence with a little context. That's it. And then, many spiritual teachers, the Dalai Lama said, that's painful, but suffering's optional. If you want to avoid suffering, you only have two options. You can impact it or you can radically accept it, which is not a passive move. That's an active move.
Yeah.
And so I'll ask Alex, well, first of all, feelings versus venting. I am frustrated. And I say, gosh, that sounds very frustrating. I can have empathy for your experience. I know how much you love your little boy, and I know how much you love to be at this T-ball game. And we do have this due date tomorrow. Um, and then he goes on. We're done sharing feelings. We're into impact it or radically accept it, right? He goes on perhaps to say in his humanness, and you know why she does this, don't you? She doesn't respect me since I got that promotion and she's trying to sabotage me with the
Here comes
client.
the story.
Yeah. And I'm like, time out. What I can't do as a leader, I can validate your experience, but I have to be very careful not to validate the sense you're making of your experience
Right.
because that's the collusion. And that is where I can love you up and hear your feelings. But my call you up is I want freedom for you. And if you believe that, you will suffer. So I might say, if you were great right now, what would great look like? If you want to impact it, you only have two options. And he might come up with an idea. Well, in the future, I'll put a note on your calendar 3 days before I need this information monthly. I'll say, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Now I'm willing to stay and help get you out of here. And he has just been great, had impact, can move on. But the ego that is only helpful in primitive parts, it outlines the picture we're going to color. It is not drawing the picture. So the ego comes to play and says, yeah, but I shouldn't, have to, which the ego makes up rules that the world violates. And then we're mad because the ego eats anger for lunch. It needs to stay disgruntled. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Alex, shoot, you were almost great. Like, you coulda just put an auto." But the ego's like, "I gotta keep score, and I have to be heard." If you're feeling the need to be heard and seen, check your ego, because a lot of times that's the ego wanting people to collude with you and cheap bonding. Um, and so I say, that's okay. We got another option. Can you just let it go? Can you just radically accept that some days are like that? When we work on a team and we're in relationships, sometimes we disappoint one another. He's like, "Yes, Sarah's been amazing to me. She always helps me out. I can just let it go." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's get started on getting you out of here." The ego comes again. "So she's just
No.
gonna get away with it?" I'm like, "So we're not letting it go." And you know what Alex wanted to do? What most of us wanna do is we want a third option. I don't wanna impact it, and I don't wanna radically accept it. I wanna stay and vent about it.
I
And
want somebody
she
to suffer.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
want suffering. And venting is not sharing feelings, it's a behavior, just
yeah,
like snorting crack cocaine is. It
yeah.
causes the same brain chemicals. And venting feels good, but so does other unhealthy behavior. Venting feels good, but has a big hangover because you've character assassined somebody. You have violated the noble truths. You have separated yourself from the very thing you're seeking, which is connection and love. You're the one that stepped out. And so I see a lot of people who feelings are easy to share: mad, glad, sad, or scared, one sentence, a bit of context. What most people are sharing with me when they say I really have to share emotions is venting. It's an addictive behavior that they want me to hold court to. And I just, for me, out of the love of my heart, don't hold court for that.
So you don't watch the news
You
because
know, if you
it's like
watch the news,
venting.
yeah, and that's what I'm really puzzled by, because I can watch the news,
Yeah,
and I just don't believe the news. I understand it's fake news. And it's so easy for me to judge the world and how crazy and fake news they have gotten. But you know what'd be better is to listen to my own fake news and work on my own mind, and freeing up
exactly.
my mind frees up a lot in the world. And a lot of us get so externally focused, like, oh, you know, Fox News this or CNN that. And I'm like, hey, I have something closer to home to work on. Why don't you listen to Cy Wakeman news and question that and settle your own mind and open your own heart up? And, because I think all of that, even though we complain about it and we collude together about how bad the world is, that is our drug and our escape. And the reality is, we have no proof that the world is bad. I am sitting in Baja California looking at the most beautiful ocean. I'm aware there's suffering in the world. I'm aware there's suffering in my family and suffering in our hearts. But I believe all suffering's optional, and I'll help as I can.
Yeah.
And that is super doable today.
Wow. It frames a new way of leadership, meaning taking responsibility again for yourself, and as you just said, doing what I can, being of service at the same time.
My
And
invitation, I would add, because a lot of times we do what we think somebody else needs. And instead, I like to just make the invitation. If you want to come here to this space with me, I'll see how I can help, and I'll let you know how you can help yourself.
yeah, well, that is collaboration, right? Working with, supporting with, rather than top down, right? That it feels very inclusive, and again, it feels a perfect balance of yin, feminine, and yang action. It's just a perfect blend. I mean, you can't have one without the other. They're the sacred twins, whether we like it or not. Those energies, I believe, live in us, and how we work with them can create that place of recognizing the pain but not suffering.
So, what a wonderful, recap. And I think so many of us get into ego positions because we're fixers. So
Yeah,
if somebody brings us a challenge, we're like, "Oh, thank you for bringing this to me. I'll take care of it. This shouldn't be this way. I have some supreme power in the world. I'll go." Like, if the scheduler brings you a problem, and the minute we do that, we teach people, one, if there's any imperfect reality, please escalate it. You're not capable. And we reinforce the fact that they're a victim of reality rather than they are here in this moment on this earth, fully capable of taking an imperfect reality and having impacts. And so I teach people to ask questions for self reflection because the power of a leader is no longer what we tell people, it's what we get them thinking about.
Yep.
And I might say, gosh, given that situation, which is not ideal, if you were amazing and great right now, what would that look like? And, help people go be great. But a lot of times we fix it for them or we collude with them, meaning, oh, that client or that person, or, they do this all the time. And it just is so unfair. It's like that person came to you for leadership and they got none.
Uh-huh.
Leaders should People want us to change reality when they come to us. What leaders really should do is grow people so that they can move through whatever reality more skillfully.
Yeah.
And I think we miss the mark on that out of our own needs. And then it fulfills a need for us. We get to be overwhelmed and unattentive to our own responsibilities and unattentive to our own emotions. Um, and I see it a lot, especially in your field. Some of your people are, teaching in the movement where they get so pulled off in their business and and then they come back and use that as a reason why they aren't themselves centered. And it's like, no, that was a great the diversion, so you didn't have to do your own personal work. And because most of those problems out there, the clients will show up or not, they'll pay or not. Those are such simplistic problems. We use those to avoid the bigger evolution that we need inside.
Doing the personal work in let's say, for instance, in the healthcare field, and doing the personal work may mean calling out what you see is going on, which can get you fired.
Yeah.
And I love this work by Loretta Ross. I don't know. She wrote a book called Calling In. And the whole idea is to call out, but then call in and to have this conversation. Um,
A lot more people fear getting fired before speaking up and never speak up than actually get fired.
yeah.
I work in healthcare, and this is how you know the ego's at play is if there's a double bind. So I'm like, gosh, you feel strongly that that wasn't the care the patient deserved. Why don't you speak up? Well, people who speak up here get fired. Okay. Do you have any evidence of that? Like when that actually, well, I heard that back in 1968, like it's really now there are times maybe there is retaliation. I'm not ignoring that. But that same leader, I'll say, oh my gosh, that behavior endangers the patient. Fire that person. And they'll say to me, I can't. No one gets fired around here. It's impossible to fire somebody around here. And then I go, which is it? And do you hear how the ego uses things conveniently?
Yeah.
I can't speak up, I'll be fired, but I can't fire somebody because we can't, no one can get fired. And that's how I know that it's not about speaking up or not. It's about gathering the genius of the collective to speak up in a way
Yeah.
that is professional and within your licensure and within our government structure. We have whole committees set up where every day we listen to people speaking up in healthcare.
Yeah.
And I'll ask somebody who said, I can't speak up, I'll be fired. I'm like, oh my gosh, tell me what you've done so far. And they're like, well, I haven't done anything. And I'm like, well, then how do you know? And let's say I do get fired. If I get fired for speaking up, I didn't belong in that system in the first place. So it's hard, but people are scaring themselves with illusions, not reality. The ego's job is to keep us scared so that we operate out of scarcity.
Wow.
Scarcity is scare city. It's a location. And abundance, which I always remember, it's like a dance of my bun, right? Um, when you're in fear, you will protect yourself and harm others. A lot of people go, I'm in fear because I don't want anyone hurt or I feel threatened. Your fear position just transfers a threat to another more innocent person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your abundance says, let's change the question. If you want better answers, let's have different questions. Abundance is, let's ask a different question, not, what should I do? right? Or should I leave or should I go? It's like, what's my soul craving? And am I getting that out of this relationship? And if not, have I even tried to ask for it? And then if I asked for it and I got an answer, did I believe the answer when I got it? And there's just a lot of ways that we argue with reality and then claim it harmed us when the harm is self induced.
Have you ever found yourself in a leadership role with a group of people where you said, I'm out of here. I'm not aligned with these people. I don't want to lead these people. Have you ever felt that disconnect?
So I've felt that disconnect, but rather than me making the assumption, I have a little bit different approach with that. I can only work with the willing. And so rather than me decide we're not aligned, I ask them, what's your level of willingness to join us for the pursuit of that? And then I believe them when they tell me their answer through their behavior or not. Um, Usually in a leadership position, I have I ever left? I guess I choose clients today because I only have limited time. So there's some clients I don't believe they're toxic. I don't believe in those labels. I believe perhaps they're not ready for what I have to offer. It's a readiness issue. But more often than not, I'm always leading a mixed group. And so the mistake people make, like if you have not willing, in the middle, and totally willing, the mistake most people make out of ego is they try and convert the not willing.
Right.
And what I like to do is feed the willing and then go after the easy converts, the not yet willing. And then the people like in resistance have a decision to make. So I would rather focus on growing what we're looking for, and then the rest falls away instead
Exactly.
of taking on the resistance. So, have I been places where I made choices to move into a different environment? Maybe I thought I could do what I could, or the energy I had at that time in my life was, I, didn't feel like I had the energy to give. Yes, but here's the rule: there's only two options: stay, enjoy, or leave in peace. And a lot of people stay in hate or leave in hate. So if I'm in a leadership position, I'm thinking about leaving my job, I need to stay until I can leave in peace, where I understand that I wasn't victimized and this wasn't toxic and all the things. It just, I did this now and now I like to do something else. If it's that neutral, then you've learned your lesson. It's time to go. Otherwise, you'll just repeat the lesson, in my
Yeah.
opinion. This isn't about abusive, I'm not talking about abusive domestic violence situations, but I am saying that for me, if I'm here, I need to get myself in joy. Otherwise, I need to leave. And if I leave, it needs to be in peace. I had a girlfriend who went through a divorce and she just did beautiful work um, when deciding to leave this relationship. And everybody, all of us girlfriends were like waiting for the tea, the gossip. We're like, what happened? What did he And we finally got her over for cocktails one night. We're like, "Okay, what happened?" And she goes, "Well, I think I've worked it down to this." And we're like waiting for it. She goes, "There were just some things he did that I liked, and there are some things he did that I didn't like. And I decided that for now I would just go forward solo." And that was the story of their whole divorce. And there was a lot happening there. But she left with that level of peacefulness. She wasn't gaslighting, she wasn't spiritual bypassing. I saw her work through the issues. It was messy. But when she left, that was her condition. And I just saw that as such a beautiful place to be. What if we all left and we're able, all the cord cutting ceremony we try and do with our exes, like, what if we could just get to that place and leave?
It's interesting. Well, if I reflect back on my first divorce, it was very much driven by that, about personal self inquiry. I needed to personally grow. The second one was not my choice. I felt victimized by something that happened. And yet it's all the same, right? It's that sand in the oyster shell, wherever it comes from, right? I truly trust now in my life that it's there for a reason. If I just stop squirming and just sit with it for a little bit, right?
come, sit, stay is
Come sit, stay.
so important. And, my own life, I look back and I've been kicked out of a lot of places in a lot of people's life, brutally like kicked out. And now where I landed, if I were a pinball machine in the ball and I just got kicked out, kicked out, kicked out, kicked out, not here, not your house, not your home, that thing bounced me into the gutter on the beach of the Baja, the most beautiful life ever. And so now when something happens, I just have 2 core beliefs, and I feel my feelings, but I have 2 core beliefs. Um, One is the universe says it's already yours, so you don't have to desire anything. It's already yours. And, the second one is that, it's not just that, rejection's redirection, it's that, everything truly does happen, in your favor. It just my mom used to say, "It's all good in the end or it's not the end."
Yeah,
Like, we
that's
know how the
great.
story ends, you're just prematurely, like, wrapping it up.
I love that. I love that. Um, I like to look at each day as having a beginning, a middle, and an end. And, at the end of the day, and I put my head on the pillow, I do a self set. How'd you do? You know, what would you do different? What were your greatest joys of the day? What did you miss? Right. And I feel that when I do that, my dreams are so rich,
I
and
love
they
that
like
connection.
they it's almost like they show me some sort of a reality. When I don't do that and I go to sleep, I feel like my dreams are like just they stick me in a third dimension, I guess is what I would say, rather than being in the place of creating that ending, that reality that I want for each day. I don't know I'm gonna wake up the next day. I hope I do, but I don't know it.
No, no. But when we go to bed and we put ourselves in a victim place and we're non-reflective, the universe puts us in timeout in our dreams. In my mind, it says, "Oh, she's not up to working on anything great tonight. I'll go to some other people." And there's just so many ways. I don't know how to live, and I did not come on here to tell other people how to live. When I wrote my book, Life's Messy, Live Happy, my latest one, my editors were like, "Can you write a book advising people on how to live in these uncertain times?" I said, "Absolutely not. I am not an expert." I said, "But I can write a book that are vignettes about meaningful moments of insight that I've had, and perhaps they would resonate with others." And one of them too, it's like as you count your blessings at night, one of the meaningful interpretations I had took that even just one step further. I used to do a gratitude list. And, Oprah got us all started doing gratitude lists. So I do a gratitude list. And it started to be interesting to me about what I would put on the list and what I would leave off of the list. That if it benefited me, it was almost superstition. I was signaling to the universe more of this, less of that.
Right.
And then I decided that I would just recap my day and put everything on the list and be grateful for all of it.
Uh-huh.
And because my perspective is so short, if I'm judging it day by day,
Yeah.
there are so many times I totally missed on something that was the exact thing 3 years later that put me in a new position
Exactly, the
to
pinball. Mhm.
yeah, it's the pinball. So, I think that we're all looking for the recipe on how to live, and, Rilke, a favorite poet of mine, said, "Learn to trust yourself, and then you'll know how to live." And I really, for me, have had a lot of external success and appeared to be successful, and I was miserable on the inside.
Oh, wow.
And so I did lots of external success. I figured out that formula, but then I had to back up in my 50s. I'm now turned 60. I had to back up in my 50s and say, okay, that's one part of this melody. Now, how do I harmonize with this? How do I write the rest of the score? And use what I know from there to add some other lines in. And I think that's what the world's calling us to do today is not throw away what we had. We have some melodies. And now, like in completing the score, how do we sing this song in this world? How do we sing the song in this situation? We're just learning to sing our song in many different environments with different instruments.
I love the idea of each of us uh, playing our own instrument, right? Our own
Yes.
body and life, having our own song, our own melody, rhythm, harmony, and blending that concept of leadership from a healthy ecosystem and really aligning our responsible leadership to caretake for self, to do no harm to self, do no harm to others, and to really look at health care as something that is not only personal, but also includes our earth. It includes how we interact with others and where we invest our time, our energy, and a life force in ways that feel meaningful and purposeful to us, so that live a happy life is something we construct. We construct in a way where we could say, I wrote the book.
I wrote the book.
I wrote
And
the book.
that's why I call the book Life's Messy, Live Happy. You don't need to be perfect to live content. We're not self-help projects to live content in an imperfect world. And I love your metaphor of the instrument, because a lot of times if we're the instrument, we put down the instrument to go lead. And I'm like, no, you're the Pied Piper. Lead through playing your instrument well, your body, your mind, your soul. Um,
Beautiful.
but yeah, well, I hope that, our rambling finds a place in people's heart and gives them some hope. And
Absolutely.
we are
Absolutely.
not going to heck in a handbasket, people. You know how I know? Because we're here on purpose right now at this time. And we're being guided by a supreme being. And we've got this. I believe we have this.
We've got this. It's no
Bless
mistake
the
we're
falling
here.
apart. Bless
Yeah.
the falling apart. It needed to go. I
Yeah.
don't know why we're grieving that everything is falling apart. Thank God it is.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cy. This has been fantastic. Thanks everybody for listening to Get In. Cy, where can people find your books and how can they contact you?
So my books are at any independent bookstore. They're online. The book this audience might be most interested in is Life's Messy, Live Happy. My other book is called Leadership is Reality-Based Leadership and No Ego if you're in leadership positions. And I'm all over social, just at Cy Wakeman. On any of at Cy Wakeman on LinkedIn, Instagram, all of those places. And I look forward to connecting with your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't miss it because, boy, I tell you, you're going to love listening and watching to everything that Cy has to offer. And you can find me at debbierosas.com. That's where you can sign up for a subscription. I share 2 articles every single week about body and life, how to stay healthy and well, lead that ecosystem inside in a healthy and meaningful way. You can also experience Nia as a movement art 2 weeks free on Nia on Demand. And you can find me also on Instagram, Nia Technique and nianow.com. Remember that this is a really important time for us to get into ourselves and to get into the conversation with ourselves, with the universe, with each other to do better. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time.